Hello, all my crafty people out there. We are going to be doing a new project that is a little outside our realm. It's going to be an accessory. So I hope that you'll enjoy this. For anybody that's not been here before, my name is Stephanie, and generally I upcycle thrifted items, clothing specifically. So if you like that kind of content, watch along, like, subscribe, let me know what you think. And I'm going to show you what we're going to be working on today. So I'm in the thrift store going through skirts because there's a lot of fabric in skirts. And I found this puppy. And it's gold. And I mean gold. And it is a full length skirt. Like this would be great for, I guess, a really cool cocktail party. Some of the lighter balls down here that don't require a full formal. Anyway, it's a great gold fabric. It's stretchy, which is kind of cool. It was very well made, and I don't even know if it was worn once. And it doesn't have a tag in it, so I'm thinking it may have been made by somebody. But if they did an amazing job on it. So. This is the price. I don't know if you can see that. Yep. It's $4.99 for the skirt. And to go with this beautiful gold fabric, I have found this pretty kind of, it's got teals and browns and kind of the aqua greens in it, or what, not quite aqua. But it's got gold in it. So when the fabric hits the light, there's little gold lines around some of the paisley print that makes it, I think, the perfect lining material for what we're going to do. And went into the zipper bag. Found us a couple of 7-inch zippers. One for the outside, one for the inside pocket. And what would a project be lately without some single fold bias tape? I think this is going to help out in the armhole. We're going to be making a tote. And I'm going to show you the pattern that I created afterwards, when we get started. And I think that this is going to be fun. So let's get going, see how it goes, and good luck to me. Okay, everybody, this is our pattern. Doesn't look like much, but the idea is, I'll turn it around this way just so you see it from the top to bottom. This would be the handle, and the handle will have a big hole in it. This will be what we cut out to make our handle. And it will be open from here, probably to about here on the top, maybe a little lower, just depends on how comfortable I feel about that. The basic size it's about 18 inches this way across the shorter side and about 20 inches at the tallest point. Now, what I did once I cut the rectangle, 18 by 20, then I dropped 4 inches down on this side and just drew a line. This curve, I think I made it with a saucer. So it's nothing fancy. And honestly, if I can get the dimensions right, I'll find a way to put it on in the description down below where it makes it easy for you to mimic and make your own or even copy somehow. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I wanted to show you the design. So this is just going to be a big tote with a big hole in the arm. And we're going to obviously make it out of the gold. And I believe I want to lay it down on this gold so you can see. There should be just enough fabric. It is bright. Ooh, it'll be shiny. Just enough fabric on this widthwise And I want to use this crosshatch here where the seams are met as our center point, so that when I put this on here, when I cut the hole out, the hole falls between this quarter, or in this quarter, and it takes a little bit of finagling, but anyway, I want it to fall in that quarter so it'll have a natural fold there to fold over if you want to wear it as a folded bag with the strap. So this is the plan, and I think I can take and leave the seams on the sides and cut around the top and the bottom. The tricky part is going to be this right here. I'm sorry, it's split. It's got a great long split down the middle from just above that seam that's closest to the bottom. So the split is actually about it's about 14 3/4 inches long. What I want to do is use this split, and I'm going to have to take apart some of it. I'm going to have to take apart at least the bottom of it, because I want to use this split to put one of my zippers in. So it'll be a zipper on the side that goes like this in the bag, and then there'll be a zipper on the lining inside. So what I need to do first is I need to take this apart somewhat. I thought what I would start with is this seam here. I want to cut this seam right here where this is joined, and open this up, open these up, these edges up, so I can complete the seam like this and also have the space to include the zipper. So first things first, I am going to clip that open. We're just going to take and put our seam ripper under there. So now we've got this open. And then all I want to do is I'm going to take these seams up. This is just where it went across that split. And I'm going to open this part of the seam up so I can get it open for a zipper. So anyway, this is going to take a little bit of time, and I may pick it from the front first. The other concern I had was I wasn't sure how this fabric was going to recover from being stitched. You know, like leather, once you put a hole in it, it's always there. But because this is kind of like a stretchy, almost spandex kind of fabric, it seems to be recovering okay, and I don't think I'm going to have a lot of leftover. Not to mention, we're going to be sewing back in that same seam line, so I don't think it's going to hurt anything. So let me take my sweet bippy time cleaning this seam up, and then we'll get back together and start cutting it up to piece it together, and then we'll cut our lining and do our usual tote thing. The armhole will be the tricky part, and that's where our bias tape will come in handy. Over here at the machine, again, first thing I'm going to do, instead of obviously touching the zipper, is I'm going to take this seam where the split is or was when we're done, and I'm just going to seam it all the way down together as opposed to having that open split. And I'm going to seam it right in the fold of that fabric the way it was folded over, so we don't lose anything. Okay, I have sewn the seam down all the way to the end where the hem was. I took the hem out. So this is completely closed. There's no split anymore. And what I've done is I have pinned my zipper, the top of my zipper. Remember, right side down. You want it to open from the right side. So I've pinned it up here, and I've left it open. It's going to be tricky doing it this way, but what I thought I would do first to secure it is I'm going to follow this seam. I can see the seam on this line right here of serging where they seam down that serge line. And I'm going to seam across the top of this zipper following that seam line to make it as seamless as I can, so it looks like it's just part of this seam, hopefully. And I mean, it will be noticeable. I'll backstitch over it and make sure it's secure. And then somehow or another, I've never done one of these, what I'm considering kind of a blind zipper. We're going to pull it down and we're going to sew it from the other side, because we've got to follow these lines in the original seams to make sure it looks right. I'm going to try to pin it like that from the other side, because I should be able to feel this zipper tape in this seam line. So we're going to cross our fingers and see how it goes. But first, like I said, let me secure the zipper top this way. Okay. I have pinned my zipper down after I did that top stitching, or that stitching right at the top of it to secure it. I've pinned it down this seam. That's the seam I closed up that was the split on the skirt. Now I pinned it from the front, or the outside, the right side. And what I did is I made sure I could feel the zipper teeth underneath this seam line. And I know that the zipper tape is wider than this seam that was originally here that I'm going to try and follow, so it looks like it did originally. And the only thing I'm worried about is the pull up here is a little wide, and I'm hoping that my zipper foot can get around it and still follow this line. So we're going to check that out. I've got my zipper foot on, and I'm going to see if I can start this and get around this. I have not done a zipper in this manner before. All the zippers I've always put in were one side to one side. And this would probably be easier if I wasn't working in a tube, which is essentially what I'm doing. Because I'm not opening up the skirt, and usually you would have an opening. I'm going to get y'all closer, okay? Hold, please. There we go. Now you can see those are my pins, and I know this is the end of my zipper down here, so I'm going to start here. Like I said, I got my zipper foot on. I don't know if I can get tight enough onto that seam or not. We're going to see. Just as long as I don't hit teeth, right? Okay guys, I'm not going to lie, that was complicated. Not complicated, but frustrating maybe? So, what I was able to do, in a nutshell, is I have sewn up the seam that was a split in the skirt, all the way up. Then, I put the zipper behind that sewn up seam, and did kind of what I call a blind stitch on it, where I stitch it from the front. But we were able to get a nice clean zipper here for the pocket on the side. So now it is stretchy fabric, so it does have a little bit of, I wouldn't say a buckle, but there are parts of this fabric that tend to want to bubble a little because they're stretched. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with that zipper. So it looks pretty good. So now what we have to do, now we've got the zipper in, now we've got to cut it up. And it also makes it better that we've got it all seamed together so we can stretch it out, make sure we get everything we can out of it. We're not going to need that hem, so don't worry about the way it looks. But we're going to have this like this. And it just is going to meet our 18-inch width. Because the skirt's a little tapered. Just a slight tapering, not huge, because it had that split in it. But it's buckled here, so it actually does meet the 18-inch width here. And again, this is going to be where our pocket is. The reason I keep putting the pocket on, I mean not the pocket, the armhole, is because I want to make sure that when we do pin it down, that it falls in one of these quadrants nice and clean. I think that's going to fall just fine. So I am actually going to pin this down. And it's got a little extra on the side. Not too worried about that. Because what I'll do is, this pattern is where I want to go. But what I can do when I cut the lining out is I can use the gold fabric as my template for the lining. And I'm not sure how far down we're going to go. Maybe that's enough. We'll see. Once I take it off here, then we'll make the decision as to how far down we'll make that go. So now we've got our basic shape of our bag. And let's look at this curve here. That actually might be far enough, because honestly, this is going to be open all the way up the top. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. I'm just going to cut this piece of serge seam off. Now we're going to use this to cut our lining. That way we'll feel a little better about it being the right size. Woo! This piece of fabric is already seamed together. So there's no seam allowance in this piece of fabric. I need a seam allowance in here. That should give me more than enough of a seam allowance. So I think that's where I'm going to go. Okay, so I've got a little more than 1/4 inch in one spot, but that's because this is just kind of crooked. Not crooked, but stretchy. The material is stretchy. All right. Let's see. Now, should I have ironed my fabric? Probably. Did I iron my fabric? No, not today. I did not break out the iron. Let me pull it up here so I get on the board. All right, so that gives me that little 1/4 inch there. Figured it out. What I'm going to have to do, first, let's turn these right sides out. I mean in. Inside out. However you want to say it. Inside out. And then we need to mark that spot that we want to stop the seam at, so that we won't go too far. Make sure. Sorry if people don't like that sound. I know it makes my daughter absolutely crazy, but it's the best way to get the fabric lined up. So we see that we have this line that goes down to here for the opening. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that on here. We're going to line up our 1/2 inch seam allowances, or 1/4 inch seam allowances, excuse me, all the way around. And we're going to mark right here. And we'll probably put a pin in it too, just to make sure that we know that's our stopping point. And we're going to run a seam all the way around the edges, just like we would a regular tote. In this particular situation, though, we're going to leave a hole in the bottom to turn the whole bag. I know y'all thought I'd forgotten about it, or at least maybe I thought I did. Pockets. We want a pocket on the interior between the lining and the outside of the bag, so we can use this zipper we installed. So these squares are a little over 9 by 9. that's just how it ended up being. So I cut 2 squares of my lining fabric. These are just right sides together, and they are 10 by 10. Here's my plan. Stick with me. I'm going to have one of them, and I'm going to put it over this area, and I'm going to line it up on this side of the zipper. Hopefully you can see that. On this side of the zipper. And I'm going to sew it down in this direction. Okay? First I'm going to serge the edges of this side so it doesn't fray. I'll serge the edge of this. So I'm going to put it there. Then I'm going to serge the edge of this one. And I'm going to put it just over the top of that. And I'm going to sew down this seam right on the other side of the zipper. So I'm encasing the zipper in this pocket. And there's enough overage on this that I can run a seam on the right side of this fabric, on the right side of the gold, where I can run a seam right down there and follow the seam that's out there so it's not obvious. And then I will run a seam down the edge of this serge seam here to catch this side. Now I'm going to leave this part open because this is going to get caught when we put the lining or when we put the bottom together. When we sew the bottom up, we'll catch that lining of this pocket. I know it sounds crazy, but I think it'll give us a nice big pocket outside of the purse. And it will be lined with the fabric. I think it'll be lined well. What I could do, instead of serging it, I could just fold a seam under like this and do that. I might do that. I might just fold a little seam under. That way it'll be nicer and cleaner. So I'll fold it under like that. And this one I won't have to worry about because it's going to be on the inside of the bag. So it'll be like this on this side. And then when you put your hand in the zipper, in the pocket, it'll go directly into this lined pocket. No problem. All right, so pocket number 1. Now the second pocket, I had originally thought about putting a zipper in it. And the reason, I just thought it would be cool, but let's face it. If you've got a pocket inside a bag, whether it's a tote or a purse, going into that to unzip it is a pain. So I don't want to put a zipper on the top, but I do want to make it stand out against the other part of the lining. I'm going to make it out of the same material as the lining. But what I thought I would do is, this is the hem of the skirt. And it's already perfectly pressed and seamed. So it'll kind of look like this at the top. Now, I'm going to use this little seam here to make a separation in the pocket. So I thought I'd do, like, since this is 10 inches wide, and it's 10 inches wide and it's 14 inches long. So that means I'll get a 7-inch about pocket because I'm folding it in half. But I thought I'd do a 4-6 split. And that way this would be a smaller pocket that you could put pens or something, a compact, whatever in. And this would be larger for phones or whatever you wanted to slip into that pocket. Now, y'all got to remember, I haven't carried a bag in a long time. But these are just things I remember being important to me. Okay, this is kind of tricky. And what I want you to see is this is where my handles are going to be. And all the bags I've seen worn this way, this part comes to the front of your body. So back, front. And we want the pocket in the front to where when you're putting your hand in, it'll go this way from the handle forward to the front of your body. All right, all that explanation aside, I need to get this piece in this corner, and I need to get it right sides up. But this isn't an open piece of fabric. This is a tube. So since it's a tube, I'm going to have to sew it from the right side in order to keep the seam lined up. That all being said, I need to pin it from the front. That's not easy. I'm having to put my hand up into the tube into the bag and pin it from the right side. I know it sounds goofy, and if it wasn't like this, if I had taken the seams out and actually had it open on either side or one of the sides, I wouldn't have to do this. I could just pin it from the right side and be done with it, and it wouldn't be difficult. But it wouldn't be a project of mine if it wasn't difficult. So now, pinned, turned inside out. Try not to pin yourself again, which I have done that several times throughout this project for some crazy reason. Now you can see, make sure your lining is pulled right. Now you can see my pins down the zipper, and this is the way the fabric's going to fold. And you can see when you put your hand in the pocket, you'll see the right side of the fabric. So now I've got to sew this down. I've got my zipper foot on. I'm going to go along that seam line that's already there so it looks a little more invisible. And then we'll put the other side on and we'll seam them across the top using this seam line. So it, again, it's pretty invisible. And then inside, we'll use the serged line, the serged seam there to sew it directly to that seam. So let me get to sewing. I'll show y'all what it looks like when we have the other side going on. Okay, we got the first side sewn on. So you can see it's going right down the zipper line, and it's not infringing on the zipper. Okay, so now we're going to take the other piece and we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to put it right side down so we have the two right sides together. And we're going to sew it on the edge of this side of the zipper. And that's going to give us our pocket that will sew a seam here, sew a seam here, and catch it when we close up the bottom. So okay, I just wanted to show you where I placed the pocket on the lining. Again, low, so if you wanted to fold it over and carry it with a strap, you could. This is the other side of our lining. And I'm going to go ahead and go over to the sewing machine. And what I'm going to sew is this side, part of this side, leaving a 4-inch or 3-inch opening at least at the bottom. Sew down this corner, and I'm going to sew up to the point where we have the opening here, which I'm going to have to remark because I had to pull the lining for the pocket. So it's right here. We don't want to go past this line. So that's our stopping point. It's a busy fabric. But again, down here, leave an opening here, and back up the side. And then we'll place it inside of this. And we're going to figure out the armholes next. Hold, please. I have sewn all around the top, and I took some pinking shears to this curve. It's not a real drastic curve, and I clipped this corner pretty tight, so it should fold out. All right, fingers crossed. Let's see what this does. I turned it right side out so y'all can see the seam a little better. Here is my hole right there in the bottom of my lining. So let's just take hold of everything, start pulling, and see what we've got. I might have to do some more pinking or some clipping, but this will give us an idea. All right, so we're gonna stuff it in here so we can get an idea and start pulling it out. Let's see what the top is going to pull out like. All right. Again, we may have to cut some seams, or, I mean, not seams, do some clipping if we can't get this tight. And of course we could put a top stitch on it. That'll get it tight too. Just pulling it out, making sure everything's good. It seemed to have it went together well. I can't talk tonight, sorry. The only thing I'm worried about is this corner here. I might have to do some finagling. That's the word of the day, finagling. Okay, we're at the tough part. Now, I cut the circle or oval down by about a 1/2 inch all the way around to make it fit better in this hole or in this pocket, this quadrant. I don't know. And I've pinned it down to the fabric with all 4 of the pieces together, and I've made sure as best I can that all of it's flat underneath. And unfortunately, I don't know of another way to do this. So if y'all have ideas, let me know. I'm going to take a rotary cutter and I'm going to start the hole on one of the straight sides, and then I'm going to use my scissors to cut the rest of it out. So let's see how this goes. Rotary cutter. And use it to make sure I go all the way through. And then I'm going to take my scissors. I'm just going to cut around my little oval here. Okay. This is what our bag's going to look like. Let's go get the bias tape on it and see how that's going to work. Okay guys, got it done and I think it looks pretty good. It's a little stretched on the armhole because first of all, sewing that curve, and I should have put probably maybe a walking foot on it so it does this little wave. But this kind of fabric, if I put any weight in here and carrying stuff, it's going to curl like that anyway. So I'm not too unhappy with it. It's still cool looking. The lining turned out great. I trimmed the bias tape so it looks nice and even. And it's got that big pocket on the inside. I don't know if you can see it. And then, of course, you wear it like this and voila. You've got a nice pocket in the front. I'm going to put a little tassel on this just so it's easier to open and close. But all in all, I'm pretty excited about the way it turned out. Now, I did it the hard way by leaving the skirt whole as a tube. I could have cut out a lot of pain just opening that up and re-sewing it back together. So your process or your project could be a lot simpler than my craziness, but I'm going to try and give you the measurements and everything as clear as I can, as clear as mud. And if you like this kind of content, upcycling, making something out of something that was probably going to be thrown away, let me know. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what y'all are doing. And I will catch y'all on the flip side of our next project.